Hello friends, welcome. Friends, day before yesterday, the government of India came out with their CPI Index for the month of December 2024. Now friends, if you look at the document which they basically released, the CPI Index, and I will show you that where to focus on, you will see that this is the table right in front of you, which talks about the all India general group subgroup level of CPI for the number of November final and December provisional, and the base is where I want you to focus on, is giving 2012 as 100. So what basically it means? It means that whatever items that you see here for which the price inflation is measured is normalized for the base year of 100. Means at the base year of 100, this reference level was considered, the price reference level for these items were considered as 100, and then whatever has been the price inflation or the escalation is measured as a reference for the base year as 100. It's as simple as that, right? So this is a very important concept as far as the CPI inflation metrics or the numbers that the government of India announces we need to consider. The second point which I want to emphasize is that how do we measure inflation? We measure inflation by comparing the index value for a particular month corresponding to the previous year's same month. This takes into consideration the seasonality also, because every month may not be alike. Now friends, why I am doing this video? The reason I am doing this video is that the weights which are taken into consideration for determining the general index, which becomes the reference point for calculating inflation, because each and every item has got their own inflation values, but the general index becomes the reference point, right? So you will see that the general index is actually down below. This is the general index, which is 100. It is adding, all the weights add up to 100. You see that? Let me just zoom out a bit so that you can see. So you'll see that the weights here all add on to 100. And then this reference value, which is currently for the November year is 199.4, and for the December year, so let me just take it, for the December year is 198.4, is taken as a reference for a particular market segment, let's say rural, urban, or combined, to calculate the inflation. So whenever somebody tells you that India's inflation is 5.2 to 5.4, what they are doing, telling you is that the general index, which is 195.4, which is as of December 2024, the corresponding year in December 2023, what was the general index? And if you subtract this number, which is 195.4, from the corresponding value in December 2023 and divide by the corresponding value in December 2023, you will get the inflation. So that's how the inflation is calculated. It is very simple. So far, so good. Now friends, what I am trying to tell you is that how this general index is getting calculated, because the individual items have their price values which are pegged or normalized for the base year of 2012, right? That's fine. But there is no item related to general index. The general index is a number which is an aggregation of all these items which you are seeing right in front of your screen. So all these items that you see, these items aggregate into the general index number, which is shown here as 195.4. So how do they do that? So every item is associated with a weight, and that weight actually is taken as a reference, and the corresponding value of inflation or the index of that particular item proportionate to the weight is taken into consideration while general index is calculated. So in other words, in mathematical term, if you look at it from a mathematical term, what does it mean? It basically means that this is a sum product of the weights and the index values, and then you normalize by dividing by the total weights, which is 100. Correct? That is how you are going to get general index. Now friends, strangely, this is what I want to focus on this video. These weights will keep on changing with time. They will never remain static. Whatever was the weight in year 2011-12, which is taken as a reference value for calculating inflation, no longer is valid today. Today's date, it is no longer valid. For example, if you see cereal and products, which is giving the weights has been given as 12.35 for rural, 6.59 for urban, and the combined weight is 9.67 for both urban and rural, depending upon the ratios of urban and rural consumption pattern and the population metric. These are no longer same. Now, if these are no longer same, then how can you be assured of this number of 195.4? Let me ask you this question. If the weights are different, then even if the reference value of these items keep on changing with time, you cannot accurately determine the value of the general index, and therefore your inflation calculations are going to be faulty. Now, fortunately, friends, the government of India comes out with this report. Again, let me just zoom out a bit. This is called Household Consumption Expenditure Survey of year 2023-24, and the government of India has been doing this survey on a periodic basis. Now, in this survey, if you go to the introduction part of this survey, and let me zoom in a bit, you will see what this introduction is saying. It is saying that Household Consumption Expenditure Survey, which is HCES, is designed to collect information on consumption and expenditure of household on goods and services. It helps to understand the consumption expenditure pattern, standard of living or well-being of household. Besides, the data of HCES provides a budget share of different commodity groups, which is used to prepare the weighted diagram for completion of the official consumer price index. Do you understand what does it mean? It basically tells you that the spending pattern against these buckets item, which are considered as weights for calculating the general index, is evaluated in each and every survey. Each and every survey, the items are going to be different. And let me show you the table for your reference. And everybody who is an economist who wants to understand how the inflation pattern works should read this report. Let me emphasize all this point. It's a very, very important report and may have been ignored in the press because so much importance has not been given. Now, if you look at in this report, there is a statement 4. And in this statement 4, there is a term called MPC, which is nothing but monthly pattern of consumption expenditure of the household, right? So how much money the household spend for each and every item. For example, cereal and product, rural people are spending 2006 rupees per month. Urban is spending 2063 rupees per month. And this share or percentage is calculated here, right here. You can see that. These are the weights, right? So if you see, these are going to get added. If you go down below, the number is going to add for rural, the whole consumption pattern for all these items. And you will find that strangely, these are the items which are used for calculating inflation. All the price rise are more or less mapped to these items, not 100%. You may not be because those people may have more accurate mechanism of mapping these items. But you will find a mapping synergy between these items in the MPC report or the household consumption expenditure report and the report which I showed you here, where the overall inflation is being measured and the indexes are being calculated, right? So if you consider this report and then if you take these items as a reference point, then you can draw a trend, which I have exactly done in this Excel sheet, which is right in front of you. So if you see this Excel sheet, I'll show you one by one. It will get a little bit, video is very, very complicated, by the way. Just be with me and I'll tell you, I'll refer to you a point of reference which I wrote. You can read that at your leisure, the article that I wrote, and I'm going to paste the link in the description. So if you see this particular sheet, let me just take my face out from the let me take this out also from the point where, so that you can get, it will be fine here. So you'll find that what I've done, I have in this Excel sheet, I have pasted the indexes which were there for the year 2011-12 and then compare those indexes with the survey which was carried out for the year 2011-12. So if you see here, for 2011-12, let me just zoom out a bit, and you will see that the 2011-12, whatever the survey which was carried out by the Ministry of Statistics, those numbers, those waste and the proportional distribution of those items on the expenditure items, you will find that more or less these items are matching. For example, if you see cereal and products 12.35, this is 10.75. Then meat and fish, this is 4.38, this is 4.31. So you'll compare, you'll find more or less. It may not be an accurate match, but it is more or less matching. But for the survey which was carried out in year 2023, 22-23 and 23-24, these numbers have drastically changed. Can you see that? The cereal and products, now it is 4.91% the distribution of consumption in case of rural, and for 23-24 it is 4.99. So depending upon what the weights were in the earlier part of the series, when the series started, and when how the weights have changed, you can see that there has been drastic changes. Now you can no longer use the earlier weights to calculate inflation, which we are doing right now, and that's why our inflation numbers are not accurate. There is a variation to a certain basis point, which I am going to demonstrate very clearly. So this is one table for the rural, and this is another table which I have done for urban. Right, same table. You see urban weights, column number 3, and the weights which were basically calculated when the survey of year FY 11-12. So those weights are more or less, you will see, matching. And you can pause the video and check. There may be some discrepancy here, like for example housing, this may not match. How they do it, I don't know, but I'm just giving you a general kind of feel what kind of weights are used. And they may have some refinement, which I'm not aware, because I do not have great insight as to how they do this activity. I'm just giving you as a layman perspective. When you look at these reports, you will understand that there is kind of change of proportion in the consumption pattern of households. So these numbers are also there. So what I have to do, I have the number for urban, I have the number for rural, but I don't have the number for combined. So I have to extrapolate the number for combined. For that, I have created this table. And this is again a little bit complex. You have to pause the video, look at this table very carefully. Then you will understand that how the calculations have been done. So this is the column number 3 is again the weights of the combined year for the financial year FY 11-12 when the series started, right? So I have pasted this in this particular row. Then I have the MPC for rural, MPC for urban for the respective year of 2022-23, 23-24 pasted here. These are absolute value of spend in rupees. And then I have the percentage of the distribution of the spending pattern. If you add everything together, these are going to add for the respective year. For example, 2023 MPC rupees per month and the proportional spend for 2022-23 for as a percentage basis. Similarly for 23-24 for urban, here 23-22 and 23-24, right? Now what I can do, I have the absolute numbers, I have the percentages, so I can basically do a weighted average. And weighted average is very simple. You simply have to basically do a weighted average, and you can see the formula here. You will be able to understand this multiplied by this, this multiplied by this. This multiplied by this multiplied by this, and divided by the weights. Add the addition of the weights, and you can get this number. So in this way, you calculate the number for both the year 2023-24 and 22-23 and 23-24. And then what I do is the averaging. So as to basically make sure that the numbers for 22-23 and 23-24 average out and there are no major shocks which we feel. So it kind of gives you a very accurate picture of the weights for the weights which should be taken for the purpose of calculating inflation, both rural, urban and combined. Then after having calculated this, then I have a very elaborated Excel sheet. And this elaborated Excel sheet is a very complex Excel sheet. Actually, it's not complex. What I have done here is that I have aggregated the numbers for each and every month as these months were being announced. So it has been a very long Excel sheet which I have calculated. So you will see that here we have got the main category, we have the subcategory. Let me just zoom out, zoom in a little bit so that you can be very clear as to what these numbers are. So there is a main category here, there is a subcategory here, this is date here, this is the rural index. From here to here, the rural actual index of price inflation, taking 100 as a base. This is urban and this is combined. But these numbers have been extrapolated as a weighted average because these are new weights which I have superimposed here. You see? These are new weights which are superimposed. So how do you calculate this? This is very simple. This multiplied by this and divided by 100. So that's how you calculate the rural index, urban index, combined index. Once you have this rural index, urban index and combined index and you calculate it for a sufficient period of time, let's say for 2 years, I have done that, then you can do what? You can calculate the overall inflation, which to me comes out to be 4.73, right? Now, what is the actual number which you see right now in the public domain? It is 5.22. Now 5.22 is 4.73. The number which you see right in front of you means that the inflation is lower if you consider the weights which are the recent weight for the spending pattern of the consumer. Now friends, you need to understand these are generic numbers. These are not numbers for you. You may have a different spending pattern, but the population at large is generalized over two different geographical segments. One is urban, another is rural. Now, these two geographical segments have been averaged out. So, they have done a aggregation of the households over these geographical segments and an aggregated number. But they have not segmented out. Maybe the 10% of the population, 20% of the population, 30% of the population, 50% of the population may have a different spending pattern altogether. So, whatever number that is relevant for you as an inflation may not be relevant for others. Right? Now, this is very, very important. And why this is important is because this number which you see right in front of you, which is 4.73, right? Which I calculated using the process which I have explained to you, right? This is 4.73 for the general index inflation. For urban, it is 4.56. And for rural, it is 5.50. But the actual numbers are different. Let me show you the actual numbers, right? So that you understand that, how different these actual numbers are. So let me just see where, this is the sheet which has the actual numbers. And again, I will zoom out and then I'll just take this away from this so that it becomes, so you'll see that the actual numbers are 5.22, 4.58 and 5.6. Here, the indexes that were used are the same, right? But the weights are what? The weights which we saw in the year 2011-12, right? So that's why these numbers are different. So for friends, if you really want to look at these the numbers and I play around with these numbers, you can basically go to my website. And in this website, I'm going to show you that there is a dashboard, and this dashboard has the various controls, like you can do month, quarter, year. You can choose the number of units in time units you want to choose. You can paste the time units and you can have some other controls. And then here what you can do is then you can choose the different dimension here. You can choose a combined inflation weighted average, rural inflation weighted average, index and other things. So what I've done is I've chosen rural inflation weighted average. Why rural inflation weighted average? Because I am not bothered about the individual inflation in this number. I am bothered about the contribution of a particular dimension to the overall general index, right? Because that's more important. You can see that vegetable is contributing significantly 160 basis point to the overall inflation of 522. However, if I use my metric, which was let me just see where my sheet has gone. There are so many sheets and windows that I opened up. I myself get confused. Where to look at, but let me just see if I can find that the dashboard which I want to show it to you. Just a minute. Yeah, here is my dashboard. So if you see that this dashboard that I have, let me just close this window because this got lost. Don't save. So this is the dashboard which I have created. This dashboard that I have created. Let me zoom. Let me see if zooming is possible. I think zooming is not possible here. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So you will see that here what I've done is that I've pasted those weights which we calculated, and on the basis of which you can see these numbers that you see here. These numbers are drastically different from the numbers which you see here, right? So just to basically give you a flavor of this, let me do that. Let me pull this out. Just a minute, I'll put it here, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this here, and you'll see this. You can see that. So this is the number here, and let me see where this number has gone. Yeah, okay, just a minute. Oh my God, this is there, and I'll just take this away from the view. take this away from the view. I think I have lost my sheet here. So many dashboard and so many. Oh my God. Let me just see if I can pull this out. Yeah, this is there. And let me take this also out of the picture. Yes. Now you can see that this is the dashboard right in front of you, which is the revised weights. And you will find that the revised weights here and using the revised weight, these are the general index number, in general inflation index numbers from the point of view of inflation, not index, actually inflation. And these are the inflation number on a percentage basis point, which are different. For example, 473, 522. This is what we are reporting. This is 473. For 548, this is 492. 549, this is 547. 621, this is 547. Then we have got 549, this is 486. So what you see, you basically see that these numbers are around 75 to 50 basis point less. These numbers are less compared to what we have reported, what we are basically measuring. So friends, if you really want to do a little bit of more deep dive into how this whole process has worked, so what I will suggest is that you go to my article, and I'll show you my article here. So this is the article that I have. In this article, you'll see this is what I have written. This article I have written, and in this article, let me just zoom out a bit. In this article, I have explained the whole process in detail and pasted screenshot of all the analysis that I have done, right? So you can read this article at your leisure, and you will understand that how the inflation metrics is going to change based on the spending pattern as disclosed by the survey results of each year. So whatever numbers that you see may not be accurate number. Now friends, just before I end, I'd like to point out one very important factor. These numbers, which are spelled out in the public domain, as far as inflation is concerned, these may not be realistic, as I pointed out, but it influences the behavior of the participant in the economy. Who are the participants? The participants are government, because they actually control the interest rates, that controls the economy, the liquidity in the market. The participants are the businesses, who actually are controlling their input cost and the output cost and the prices. The participants are the individuals who are worried that the price is increasing, and therefore they may be demanding more wages. So these kind of numbers which are being thrown out, if they are not accurate enough, it can have a huge impact on the metric called expected inflation. The expected inflation drives the behavior of the stakeholder. It has got nothing to do with the real inflation. So if the behavior of the individual gets driven by inputs which are given, which are not accurate enough, then what happens is that the overall economic inflation may go spiral bound, because you may get a feel that the inflation has increased or decreased depending upon that your changing spending pattern, your business, the way you do business will be affected, which can have a spillover effect and it can basically create like a control system where there will be a positive feedback into the overall system, which can make the system unstable. That is a very big risk, and that's why the RBI and the government is very conservative when it deals with inflation, because their main problem is not what the actual inflation is. Their main problem is to drive the perception of the people in such a way that the economy is stabilized, the inflation is going down, so that the behavior of the people changes, so that the loop, the feedback that goes into the system acts as a detriment to control the overall inflation. So I think friends, you probably understand why this topic is so important and why I was motivated to do this topic, though this is a highly technical, not for everybody, but I thought that to put it out. And just to give you a caveat, I am not an economist. I am a data visualizer. I basically like to visualize data, play with data. In the process, I learn very, very different topics which are complex in nature. So as I learn, I like to share my learnings with the common people. And if any economist or anybody who deals with this subject has a different opinion, I am willing to learn from them, their experience. Okay. So please be free to give your feedback in the comment section or let me know what you think about this. video. Thank you very much for your time and patience listening. And I'll come back with a new video next time. Thank you very much.